Turn me up,
if I was a doll, I'd be a breast bitch. Keep it stylish, cause I am that bitch. Might go vegan, cause all in this cabbage.
I was actually last time in my video, but not today. Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a long, I don't know how many months. I think it's been 6 months. But I have time now, like we all do, due to Miss Rona. So I've decided to film another video. Well, let's just get right into this. So it's a very special month in my house. It is Isaiah's 2-year Aron Regimen anniversary. If you guys hear him in the background, sorry, he refuses to nap these days. I feel like I'm not centered. There we go. He refuses to nap these days, so we're just gonna make it do what it don't. If you hear him throughout the video, my apologies. This is a video I wish I would have saw when I was going through all the things that I did go through before we got everything under control. So today we're basically going to be talking about childhood eczema and just how I tackled the worst case of eczema I had ever seen in a child. And I know that there are a lot of other children whose eczema cases are more severe or not as severe, but this is just to let you guys know what I went through with my son and some of the things that did work and those that did not. So like I said earlier, it is a special month in my house. It's Isaiah's 2-year Aron Regimen anniversary. So throughout this video, I'm just going to talk to you guys about how his eczema started. I'll include pictures throughout the video. I'll try to include as many pictures as I can, just so you guys can see like the changes in the transitions that we went through. So just a little background. So when I was pregnant with Isaiah, I noticed that I had a sensitivity to dairy. So like whenever I would make breakfast and have some hot chocolate, or I'd just have anything with milk, so cereal, when I would have that, I'd notice that my stomach would hurt a lot more. So I think I had a conversation with Isaiah's grandma, his Gigi, about how I think he might be sensitive to dairy as well. So that was just something that was always in the back of my head, but I didn't look too much into it just because it was just one of those things that slipped my mind, and that we didn't really pay too much attention to because he seemed normal when he was first born. So Isaiah was born in September. So 2.5 months of him being out of my stomach, I noticed that he had these light spots on him. And it just looked like newborn discoloration. So I talked to his pediatrician about it, and you know, as first-time moms, any little thing you're just like, what is this? You get on Google and Google's like, yo, your kid has an extra arm that's about to start growing and he's gonna, like, something bad's gonna happen in 2 days. So I'm Googling stuff, and it's just telling me that it could just be either baby acne or baby eczema. So I'm like, okay, whatever, like this all sounds normal. So I do everything that the pediatrician is telling me, as well as just little things I'm picking up on Pinterest or Google. And this wasn't anything that was tough on his skin or bad. It was just like, oh, use this type of children's shampoo instead of this, or I noticed that Johnson & Johnson it wasn't a good brand, so I didn't use that on Isaiah for some time. So anyways, back to the story. So I noticed this discoloration, and he was starting to have like cradle cap, but the cradle cap was like, it looked like, you know how when you used to fall on your knee when you were a kid and it would scab over? That's what his cradle cap looked like. At this point, I needed somebody to help me and help my baby. So she told me some things to use, and so I tried it, and once again, nothing was working. So now it's about Thanksgiving, and his eczema is just getting worse. Like, I tried natural things. I tried natural soaps, natural lotions. I tried no soaps. Of course, still have to put lotion to moisturize, but like I was trying everything. Oatmeal baths to soothe the itching, the oatmeal baths that come from Dove that you put in his little, not much was working. So this is around Thanksgiving, give or take, before Christmas, but after Thanksgiving. So Isaiah was a great sleeper. Like the first 3 months, he was able to sleep 8 hours in bed by himself. I never really liked sleeping with Isaiah in my bed. Even till this day, like he sleeps by himself. I just think that I don't want to be one of those parents, and not to bash on any mothers or parents that do this. I didn't really want him in the bed with me as much because I wanted him to sort of learn how to self-soothe at an early age. I think it makes it easier for him and for me. So that's one thing that we always did. Like my friends knew they couldn't hold Isaiah for long because I didn't want him to get used to being held. They couldn't hold him for long. If he started whining, the first thing you do is not to pick him up. Like he learned how to self-soothe. So that's why he was able to sleep for so long the first few months. But I noticed that as his eczema progressed, his sleeping schedule got all out of whack. So we did the cried out method to try to get his sleeping routine back on track, and it worked. So fast forward to about 2 or 3 weeks later, so right before Christmas, I'm hearing him, like, he's not really crying. I just hear him moving around. So I'm thinking he's trying to get comfortable. He's in his swaddle. I used to swaddle him. So he's in his swaddle. So he should be good, you know. I'm looking at the camera and I just see him moving around. And I look at the camera a little closer and I'm seeing like stuff around his bed. So I'm like, what? So I go in there and his sheets are covered in blood. And it's from him scratching at his face, whatever was itching from his eczema. And so now he's reached flesh. Oh gosh, I told myself I wouldn't cry. His sheets, they have blood. So I'm like, oh shit. So I get him out of the bed, change the sheets. That night he slept with me. So change the sheets, clean his nails, clip his nails, clean his face. Like I get him cleaned up, and I clean up everywhere. So I re-swaddle him, and I put him back in bed with me. And of course I didn't even sleep. I was just holding him like this the whole time. So at this point, the doctor, I go back to his pediatrician, and I know she was sick of seeing me. Shoot, I was sick of going there, and I was sick of seeing Isaiah like this, but I needed help. So when we get there, the doctor's just like, I've never seen this type of eczema before in someone so young. And so she's just telling me what more to do, and it's just the same stuff she had already told me to do. So at this point, everything in my house is being washed because I don't want him to get an infection from bacteria since it is open. I was just being very cautious. Like everything was being wiped down. I didn't really have too much company at this time. Throughout, like before he was 6 months, I didn't really have many people seeing Isaiah. But anyway, so I take everything she says again into consideration, and I'm doing everything she's telling me, but she also outsources me to the Children's Dermatology Hospital in Dallas. Children's Hospital later on that week, and we have his dermatology appointment. And at this first initial appointment, they just look at all the medications he's on, what I eat and drink since I was still breastfeeding, and while I was away from him, because I did go to school. I was a student at the time. I was a full-time student. When I was at school, if I hadn't produced enough milk, my mom would give him some of that sensitive Similac to supplement for just his nutritional needs. And so we just went over everything I was already doing, and they gave me some recommendations as to what else I can do. They also gave me a steroid prescription that was for his face instead of me using the one that he used all over his body, one that's more sensitive for his face, and then the other one that was for his body, as well as his antibacterial cream. So that's basically all that happened at that appointment, and we were supposed to have another appointment less than a month after. So towards the end of December, we go to Seattle, and his eczema is still going nuts. So we're in Seattle, and we're there for about a month. So we come back to Dallas, and it's the beginning of January. So the beginning of January, this was like our second day back in Dallas, and I'm like, something's not right. Like, my baby, his eczema was so bad, he could barely open his eyes. So I took him to the doctors, and it's keep doing what you're doing good, mom. Like, it'll get better. So I'm like, oh, hell no. My doctor, at this point, I was just thinking his pediatrician was just giving me the runaround. And so I'm like, oh, hell no. So later on that night, I couldn't sleep. Like, I could not sleep. So, and he couldn't sleep either. He was just so distraught. He was scratching, crying. And I'm trying to keep my cool. So I'm like, nah, it's 3 a.m., but we gotta go. So I pack him in the car, get his diaper back, get everything I would need, because mind y'all, I'm still a student. So I still have work and stuff I'm trying to do. It's a new semester. So I pack him up and we go to the children's hospital. No, we go to the closest ER by my house. And we go to Presby. We go to the hospital, and they're just like, they look at my kid's skin and they're like, so they, oh shit. Ooh. I told myself no crime. Okay, so, we get in the van and they rush us to Children's Hospital Dallas. And when we get to Children's Hospital Dallas, okay, backtrack just a little bit. When we were at Presby Hospital, I realized that me just giving it to the doctors how it wasn't doing anything. Like, they weren't seeing any sense of urgency in the matter that my kid is in pain, you know? So when I went to the emergency room, I exaggerated everything. Like, I might not have been exaggerating too bad, but I did exaggerate because they need to see the urgency. Like, if I need to take things to 10 so y'all can see what's going on with my kid, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So I made a big deal out of it. Of course, I kept my cool, but I was just like, yo, my kid hasn't slept in 5 days. It's really been like 3. I'm like, my kid hasn't slept in 5 days. He's not eating. He's not drinking. And I made sure when I took him to the hospital, and not to sound like a bad mother or whatever, honestly, think what you want to think, but when I took him to the hospital, I made sure I didn't clean him off as I would have to make him more presentable. I didn't do nothing because I wanted them to see him how it was. Like, the worst I see, y'all need to see it so y'all can know, like, my kid is in pain. So I took him to the hospital just how he was. My kid could not open his eye. Like, one eye was shut closed because his eczema was that bad. So I took him to the hospital, and they're like, yeah, we got to take you to Children's Hospital. So we go to Children's Hospital, and we realize he had a staph infection, which is common with people who have skin conditions or eczema. So they started treating him with the IV. So he was connected to stuff the whole time we were there. We ended up staying there for about a week. So at Children's, they fix him the best they could, but they did the best they could. We got his staph infection under control, which was making everything worse with his eczema. So once we got his staph infection under control, they let us go. It was my birthday around all this time. It was my 21st birthday. So all this is going on. Prior to everything happening, I had a trip planned with my friends to go to New York to visit my cousins that live there, but also just to get away because so much had happened, like, between birth and now. Like, I needed a trip. And so a week later, we were going to New York. So I still ended up going to New York because Isaiah stayed with my mom. And at this point, that trip was a saving grace for me. So we went on a trip. When I came back from New York, his eczema was under control. It seemed to have been getting better. But y'all know Texas with the weather changes. It got back out of whack by February. So now we're in February, and I'm like, yo, I'm at the hospital. I realized, like, I had went to the hospital, the emergency room, like 3 times in 1 week. Like, his insurance emailed me and sent me a letter like, you've been going to the emergency room too much. What's going on? Do you need to make doctor's visits? Because y'all know ER visits aren't cheap. So his insurance is like, what the hell is going on? But I had to go. That's the only way they were taking me seriously. That's the only way he was getting what he needed. So finally, this is February now. Everything we're doing, it's not doing much to contain his eczema. His eczema is still going crazy. It's getting worse. It's progressed from just his face to his arms, his legs. I'll post pictures. It was bad, and he still tried his best to be as happy as he could be. He didn't mind the swaddle. He he was a great, all the pain he was going through, he still found a way to like be peaceful. So now we're in like March, and his eczema is still, it's the same. Like at this point, it hadn't got any better from January. It's just been the same, like the same weeping, the same problems. The only difference now is we bought the scratch sleeve. So this in March, we're in March, his eczema is still not getting better. So now I've gotten to the point, I don't sleep at night. Like when Isaiah's finally peaceful and asleep, I'm not sleeping. I'm on Google, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Wikipedia, I'm on whatever website I could get to, ordering stuff that seem to work with other parents and their kids. I'm either ordering stuff, I'm reading stuff, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna fix my kid because no one else seems to know how to. So finally it was like February, March. It was about the end of March because I had just gotten back from spring break. I went to Miami with some of my friends for spring break, but I had just gotten back from spring break, and I'm like, if I can't find any help, I need some type of support because no one I know has went through this, and the people who have, like, it wasn't as bad as my kids. So I'm like, let me join a support group. So I go on Facebook. Oh gosh, the tears just won't stop. Okay, so I'm at work. I finally went back to work in April, March, end of March, almost April. So this whole time I haven't been working. I've just been a student. Before I had Isaiah, I made sure I like saved enough so I wouldn't have to work for up to a year. So anyways, I go back to work, and I'm up at work. I was at work. Yep, I was at work. I remember the day. So I'm at work, and I'm still Googling or joining Facebook support groups, and I stumble upon like a eczema support page. So I joined it. I joined every single eczema kids support group I could. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, wow, poor babies. Like I thought my baby was bad, but there are other kids that are like paralyzed from this skin disorder. So I'm like, okay, I'm reading everything, I'm seeing what worked, I'm still ordering whatever worked for other parents. None of that stuff still worked for me, but I'm still ordering it. Like it got to a point where even people who I haven't talked to since middle school, high school, they had seen what I was going through with Isaiah, so they would tag me and stuff on Facebook that helped other kids. So I stumbled upon this mom who was giving praise to Dr. Aron for his Aron Regimen. So I'm like, what's this? So I joined the Dr. Aron Regimen Facebook page, and the first thing I do immediately is add Isaiah's dad to it and my mom, so they can see like, yo, look at this. So Dr. Aron is a doctor who specializes in eczema. He's most commonly known for his Dr. Aron Regimen. And what this is, it's a compound cream that is used to tackle and combat extreme eczema like Isaiah had. Now the way that this works is depending on the severity of your eczema. People use this. It's not just for kids, adults use it. It's been proven to help with eczema, paralysis, things of that such. But it's a compound cream, which is a mixture of vanity cream lotion and your steroid cream and antibiotic. So you use this 2 to 3 times a day. And so the only problem with this is Dr. Aron isn't a doctor in the United States. So what I had to do was I paid, I think it was like $250 out of pocket. I think that's how much it was. It was either $250 or $350. And this, you pay this out of pocket for either a Skype conference where he talks to you and he tells you what you need. But now because he's not in the United States, he cannot go and write you a prescription because you can't take that to CVS or Walgreens and get it filled because he's not a doctor in the United States, you know. So what I had to do was I had to get Isaiah's pediatrician on board, and because nothing else we seemed to do was working, she was like, yeah, let's just give it a try. So Dr. Aron referred me to Dr. Van Wagner, which is actually a practicing doctor in the state of Texas. So once all that stuff was transferred between all these doctors, I was finally able to get my prescription. and I had to do the compound cream. I had to mix it myself now because of the things that I signed when I went under this. Well, when Isaiah went under this treatment, I can't really give you guys the exact proportions of what I used because it does differ from child to child. But I made the compound cream, and the first day, I remember the day before we started this treatment, we had taken a walk, and like he was just in so much pain. He couldn't even smile because his cheeks would crack. So I could just see all the pain in him. But when I tell you guys, he was a different baby by the next day. It is crazy. So after about 3 applications, because I was doing it 3 times a day, so full body, lather him up real good, lather him up. And at the end of the day, I'll put in the picture before and after from the day before we started the treatment and the next morning after the first full day of the treatment. And this was my saving grace. I know that even now, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but Isaiah does have food allergies. In December, when we were going through all these doctors, we went to an allergy specialist who did a skin test to test him for things. And now this is kind of some of the things that we realized triggered his eczema. So his dairy allergy, he is allergic to dairy. So milk, yogurt, cheese, all that sort he's allergic to. He was allergic to dust mites. That's why I would clean so much. My mom would get her carpet washed. I'd get my carpet washed every so often. So it was dust. It was the dairy, bananas. He's allergic to chicken still to this day. Like, that's one of the allergies he hasn't grown out of. So is the dairy. He was just allergic to a lot of different things. Like, I noticed potatoes would make his skin go crazy. So in January, that's when I stopped breastfeeding because he's allergic to too much shit. Like, I couldn't not eat that. And I know great mothers probably would. I'm a good mother, but I couldn't. It was too much for me. So I realized that the best thing to do is to give him his own food. So he went on this hypoallergenic formula in January. The shit was expensive. It is $49 for 1 tub, and when I tell you 1 tub, it's just the regular formula bottle for $49. And you know, babies go through that shit fast. They go through it really fast. So yeah, so we'd go through 22 bottles of that in a month. 22 bottles of formula at the price of $49. Do the math. It was expensive. So we would get it in bulk, and it seemed to help. Like, it was nasty smelling and tasting, but he seemed to like it because it didn't hurt his tummy. So we were on that Similac until he was about 1.5 years, just because it had so many nutrients in it that we were afraid he wasn't getting anywhere else because of all the things he was allergic to, he couldn't eat. So those are some of the things that I should have probably mentioned. So December, we had the allergy test. January, I stopped breastfeeding and switched to the hypoallergenic formula. Anyway, so he's on the Dr. Aron Regimen, and his skin is good. Of course, like anything, it has his good days and its bad days. Some days it would flare up depending on the weather because, mind you, he was still allergic to these things like dust mites, which you can't really run away from because they're everywhere. So he was still allergic to some things that would trigger his eczema, but it was controlled a lot better now. He could kind of live like a regular kid. Now he's not in his swaddle. Now, at this point, he wasn't in his swaddle 24/7. So the motor skills that were kind of being delayed because I had to swaddle him all the time to keep him from scratching, now he was able to crawl around and to start moving around like a kid, you know? And so that happened. He was pretty good throughout the summer. He did well. Y'all know Texas is hot and eczema hates heat, but he still did pretty well. In November of this year, so when he was about a year and 2 months, excuse me, he went to Kenya with my mom, and this was also another way for him just to get to know where he's from, where I'm from, but as well as to kind of furthermore control his eczema. So when he was in Kenya, y'all know with steroid creams, you can't go in the sun as much, and you can't, it hurts when you go in the sun because it thins out your skin so much. So since he wasn't using the steroid cream so much, we had weaned him off of the compound cream, the Dr. Aron Regimen compound cream, to instead of 3 times a day, it would be 1 time every other day, or just as needed when his eczema would flare up. He started getting brown. My baby started picking up color. So he got golden, he was having fun, he was eating, because all the food is natural in Kenya. If you want a chicken, you go kill the chicken, cook the chicken, all good. None of that processed stuff like America. If you want eggs, you go to the back, you pick the eggs from the chicken, you go make them. Like, it's fresh, it's organic food, and I think that played a big part of getting his gut health under control, because your gut health plays a big part in how your eczema works. But although it's been a better 2 years, we still have times where his skin isn't the best. Like right now, his hands are peeling a little bit because he still scratches at them. I noticed a few triggers for him now. Even though his eczema is controlled, I noticed that when he's sleepy, he will scratch, not because he's actually itchy, but just because he himself is irritated. So he'll start scratching. If he eats anything that he may be allergic to or he's sensitive to, his bottom lip will swell up and he'll start scratching. It actually happened earlier today. He had fries, and although he's not allergic to potatoes anymore, he's still allergic to chicken and the fries. I didn't think about this because there's still things I'm learning now as I go, that when you go to Chick-fil-A or when you go to Whataburger or whatever, they still fry their chicken in this oil. So he ate the fries, but they had been fried with chicken as well, so that made him flare up. And now when he gets those little flare-ups, they go away. Normally I get him to take a nap, because once he takes the naps, it gives him a break from scratching and it gives his skin a second to breathe, and it's normally better by the time he wakes up. It's crazy how it works. Like, he could be super red, and when he wakes up, he's a regular skin baby. So those are just some of the things that work. When I tell you guys, before we started the Dr. Aron Regimen treatment, nothing worked. Flat and simple. Nothing natural, nothing unnatural, nothing out of the, like, nothing worked. I just had to watch my kid be in pain for the first 6 to 7 months of his life, and I couldn't do nothing about it. But I'm so thankful for the Dr. Aron Regimen. Like I keep telling you guys, that was our saving grace. That's a saving grace for a lot of people out there. And I think the biggest takeaway from this whole experience is that we as parents, we got to be advocates for our children. And that's why when I was telling you guys, like when I took him to the emergency rooms, when I started taking him to the ER like more than once a week, I would exaggerate some of the things he was going through, because sometimes they just listen to you and they're like, oh, okay, she's probably just, it's not as bad as she's saying. That's why I was like, nah, y'all gonna believe it's bad, or if not, y'all gonna listen to me. Huh?
You did not sit there.
He caught me. I told him I was sleeping instead of recording. You wanna come say hi?
Mm-hmm.
Come here. Come here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna say hi, YouTube? Say hi, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the camera. Like I was saying, his eczema, it's gotten better. But of course we still have those bad days. Can I show them your hand?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, he got a watch on. So like if you guys see, show them your hand. It still has a lot of dry spots. This is always a problem area, and it's just this side of his mouth that's a problem area, and this part of his cheek. So we still have some problem areas. Everything isn't 100%, but I will say we're at least at the 90%. His arms are better. He doesn't even have any of the markings from how bad he used to scratch his elbows. He knows. I think it's gotten better with time. He knows he has eczema when his skin is dry. And maybe it's places I can't notice. He'll ask for lotion himself. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I helped someone. If I helped one person, 2 people, I am happy, because I've been where you are. If it's your child, I have been where you are. I have felt all those emotions. I have cried all those tears. I have screamed all those screams. So you're not alone. Join Facebook pages. Hey! I've joined all the Facebook pages. You should do that too. Sometimes the best help comes from people who are going through the same things as you. And if you don't get help from it, at least you find another shoulder to lean on and cry on. So just look into those things. I hope this was helpful once again. And thank you for tuning in. Mwah. You want to say bye, YouTube?
Bye, YouTube.
Bye.